Alright, welcome to Module 4. We are going to dive into the giant world of Photoshop selection tools. So Photoshop is a software that really does come alive with the capability of making selections, right? Pulling out part of an image and changing it, right? So selections are the first and the best step in photo compositing, right? That's when we're talking about taking aspects of different images and pulling them apart and putting them together into a new thing, right? Faking pictures, right? That is how we do it. So, as you'll see in the demos in this module, that selections work really closely with layers. And where we're going to go from here after we get selections down is we're going to then dive deeper into layers and layer masking. So, I just want to kind of go through and give you a rough overview of the selection tool process, a little bit deeper than we went through in just the tools module. So we know that the selection tools start with the rectangle marquee tool. Once again, hit Control, and we have these other options under there. Any tool with the white triangle in the corner has more options. So that's just the most basic selection tool, right? So if I just draw a rectangle, it just selects what's inside of this rectangle. I can always go and select that and go up to the select menu and hit inverse, and now everything except for that rectangle is selected. I hope that makes sense to you. Remember, anytime you want to deselect something, you can go Command D, or you can go Select Deselect. Okay, so that's the most basic tool. That's really useful if you are selecting something that is a rectangle or a circle. Next, we have the lasso tool. We kind of went over those. It's a usable tool. It's something that I use, a little bit, especially when we get to let's see, the magnetic lasso tool. So when I want to just scroll through these tools, I can hold down Option and click, and we can see that we have the lasso, the polygonal lasso, and the magnetic lasso. So the way that the magnetic lasso works is it analyzes the part of the image that you have the cursor floating over, and Photoshop will drop anchor points based on differences of color and contrast. So if I just kind of click along the edge of my friend here and drag slowly, we'll see that Photoshop is doing a pretty good job of selecting the difference between the background and my best friend's watermelon outfit. So if I just slowly go over, we see that it is working. It's doing a pretty good job. Oop, there it got a little weird. There it got a little weird, but let's just go through this. And it did alright up there. And remember, there's always ways that we can make a selection and then go and edit the selection. So, right, this is taking, 30 seconds to go and make this selection. Okay, now let me go back all the way over here. Oh no. And boom. Now I have my friend selected except for this weird bottom part. If I wanted to fix that, I could just go and, let's say, grab the lasso tool and hit Shift. Anytime you hit Shift and use a selection tool, you're adding to the selection. So let me just circle around this. But just like a lasso, you have to do a circle like that, and now it's selected that bottom part. So now if I wanted to zoom in, I could see how good this selection is. It's doing all right. I mean, there's some weirdness here, but once again, I could take the lasso tool or the magnetic lasso tool and just kind of add to it by holding down Shift. If I need to take part of the selection away, I can hold down Option and remove part of the selection. So let's just do this really quick. Why not? If I want to remove this, sometimes it gets confusing of am I adding or am I taking away? Don't worry if you make a mistake. Remember, you have the history tab. So once again, remove this from the selection. And something as big as that, I might go back to the magnetic lasso to add and subtract from it. So I want to, it's doing some weird stuff, but remember you always have to do a loop with the lasso tools. And you'll see I just made a mistake, not a big deal. So if you do click on as you're adding or subtracting from a selection, and you're not holding down the Shift or the Option, you could lose your selection just like that. And sometimes it takes a lot of work to make those selections, so you don't want to lose that. So I'm just going to hit Command Z. Oops, I'm actually going to go to, this tool gets kind of unruly sometimes. I'm going to actually go to my history, and I'm going to go back to right there, so I can bring that selection back. So there's another good use of the history tab if you kind of lose your selection. So to be honest with you, I'm just kind of showing you the most rudimentary way of making a selection. Let's just say that I go through and I fix this whole edge of this selection. You know, not too bad, and it didn't take that long. Once again, I just have my friend selected, right? He can move independently of the background. But if I wanted to get rid of the background, I could just take the selection that I made of him, select, inverse. Now, I have the background removed, and he is part of the photo. I hope that makes sense to you. So that, you know, that is a good tool to use, the lasso tool, right? I just showed you. Sometimes it has, you know, better uses than others, but it's probably not going to be the tool that you depend on to make selections. Because remember, these tools go from kind of the least refined at the top all the way down to the more refined at the bottom, which starts with the magic wand tool. So the magic wand tool, once again, it just analyzes the information of the pixel that you click on when you have it selected, and it selects similar information. So if I click, well, that did kind of weird because we have this transitioned background, right? It goes from gray to light gray to dark gray to black. So that might not be the best tool to use for that. But remember, we always can go and adjust the tolerance. I can bring that down to 10. And that doesn't do a bad job, and I can add to it. And I could go through and do it that way and just build it from there. It would take probably as long as the lasso tool. So let me show you probably the tool that you're gonna get the most use out of, and that's gonna be the quick selection tool. So the way that works is you just click and you drag, and oop, I drug over his heads, and I don't want to include that. Let's deselect it. So I'm just gonna click and drag. I'm gonna click and drag. I'm gonna click and drag, and it's just selecting all of the things that match what you're clicking and dragging over. So really quickly, I selected that whole background. Now, I'm not saying that it did a perfect job, but it did a pretty good job. We see that it kind of took his little, what is that thing called? Like a watermelon twist at the top of his head. It took that with him. So that would be something that we'd want to fix. But look how fast that we made that selection. All right. So that is the general idea of selections. Now, I'm going to have to make a supplementary video for you all because there's actually another tool. I got to get my Photoshop for these demos updated so that I can show you there's a new object select tool, which is really useful to use. And I'll make a supplementary video so you can see that as well. You're going to make the majority of your selections with this quick selection or the object selection tool. It's just the easiest, right? But remember, you can always, it's never going to be like you click once and it's a perfect selection. Now I would just want to go in and I would want to kind of clean it up, and you can clean it up with whatever tools that you want. You know, it could be the lasso tool or whatever. I could then paint. Ooh, I don't know what I am doing there. Let me get here. Let's see here. 1 second. So if I wanted to add to the selection, I'm going to go plus. Sorry, I'm kind of fiddling around here. I'm sorry, I have to subtract from the selection. The selection is actually the background. And so I'm subtracting his little watermelon curl. First time I've ever said that in a class, watermelon curl. From the background. And I'd obviously, you know, if this was something you're turning into me, you'd want to do a little bit better job. You'd want to zoom in. And you can use any number of tools, right? You could subtract. Ooh. You can add. You could make this smaller. And really just perfect it right there. You know, so you'd want to go in and be really, really close with it. But I'll show you actually more techniques of making really quick selections. But I think with these three tools, we can get, or these three clumps of tools, we can get a lot of work done. So that's with the marquee tools, the lasso tools, and the magic wand and quick select tools. So I'll see you in the further videos so that we can dive a little bit deeper into the use of selection tools.